Time is your most valuable asset. It's not a cliche, it's a reality that most people recognize too late. You can lose money and make it back. You can lose energy and recover, but time, once it's gone, it's gone. You don't get a second shot at yesterday, and every hour you spend, whether you invest it or waste it, is gone forever. That's why understanding the true value of your time is the foundation for effective leadership, strategic decision making, and personal growth. Every single day, you're making micro decisions about how to spend your time, checking emails for an hour instead of working on strategy, saying yes to a coffee meeting that has no clear outcome, sitting through an unproductive Zoom call because it was on your calendar. If you added up those hours and looked at the opportunity cost, you'd be stunned, not just at what you've given away, but at what you could have accomplished instead. Here's the truth. People who succeed aren't just smarter or more talented. They're fiercely intentional with their time. They treat it like currency, something they spend wisely, audit regularly, and never give away freely because they understand this. Time is leverage, time is clarity. Time is what creates space for impact. Being busy is not the same thing as being effective. We've built a culture that glorifies burnout, idolizes the grind, and calls 14-hour workdays a badge of honor. But if you're filling your day with tasks that don't move you closer to your goals, you're not winning. You're just occupied. There's a difference between progress and motion. The most productive people aren't the ones doing the most. They're the ones doing what matters most. And that starts with knowing your value. You have to put a dollar amount on your hour, even if you're not billing clients, even if you're salaried, even if you run your own business. If your time isn't tied to value, you'll keep giving it away like it's free. And once you do that, you teach other people to treat it the same way. When you know the worth of your time, you start operating differently. You delegate more. You cut the fluff. You stop showing up for meetings with no agenda. You stop entertaining people who drain your energy. You become hyper, focused on outcomes. You start asking yourself, what is the return on investment of this hour? Is this driving me closer to my goals or pulling me away from them? Protecting your time isn't selfish, it's strategic. It's what allows you to show up fully for the things that truly matter: your team, your mission, your vision, your personal life. It's what separates reactive leaders from proactive ones. You don't lead effectively from a place of chaos. You lead from clarity, and clarity comes from controlling your time, not the other way around. This is also about energy management, because how you spend your time directly affects your mental bandwidth. If your calendar is full of low-value tasks, you're not just wasting time. You're exhausting your ability to perform at your highest level. You burn out not because you're doing too much, but because you're doing too much of the wrong things. So it's time to shift your mindset. You don't need more hours. You need better decisions. You need boundaries. You need systems that protect your priorities. You need to start looking at your calendar not as a to-do list, but as a scoreboard. Is your time being spent on activities that generate results, or is it being eaten up by distractions, obligations, and fear-based yeses? This isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. It's about auditing your time the way you would your finances. Where is it going? What's the return? What needs to change? Because if you're not asking those questions, someone else is deciding the answers for you. In the end, time is the most honest measurement of what we truly value. If your calendar doesn't reflect your goals, then your goals are just wishful thinking. The people who get what they want in life aren't lucky, they're disciplined. They know what they're working toward, and they protect the time it takes to get there. You want to build something meaningful, respect your time. You want to lead a team with impact, model time ownership. You want to grow fast, sustainably, and with clarity. Get ruthless with your priorities. Time is your greatest asset, and how you treat it will determine everything. Clarity beats complexity every single time. It doesn't matter how innovative your strategy is, how detailed your plan looks on paper, or how smart you sound in meetings. If no one understands it, it's not working. We live in a world where overthinking is praised and overcomplication is confused with intelligence. But the leaders who truly move the needle are the ones who cut through the noise and speak with direct, actionable clarity. When you're clear, you create alignment, and alignment is what drives performance. People can't execute on what they don't understand. Teams don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because the vision is foggy, the goals are scattered, the communication is vague, the expectations are implied instead of stated. And when that happens, productivity drops, frustration rises, and no one knows what success actually looks like. Clarity isn't just about what you say, it's about how people receive it. You might think you've explained something well, but if it's wrapped in jargon, buried in a 12-slide deck, or surrounded by 5 different priorities, it's not landing. If your team can't repeat your goal in one sentence, it's too complicated. If your audience has to decode your message, they'll tune out. And if your strategy has too many moving parts, execution will stall. People crave simplicity. They want direction, not confusion. They want to know exactly what's expected of them, what the target is, and how they're being measured. And as a leader, it's your job to provide that, not with fluff, not with long-winded speeches with precision. This doesn't mean you dumb things down. It means you do the hard work of distilling the complex into something clear. That's where real leadership lives. Clarity takes more effort. It requires deep thinking. You have to strip away the noise, challenge your assumptions, and get to the core of what actually matters. It's easy to make something complicated. It's difficult to make it simple and powerful. Complexity hides problems, clarity reveals them. When things are overly complicated, it becomes harder to track accountability. People hide behind the confusion. They can say, "I didn't know," or "I thought we were focused on something else," and no one can argue with them because everything is murky. But when the message is sharp and the metrics are clear, everyone knows exactly where they stand, and excuses disappear. Clarity also saves time. It cuts decision fatigue. When your priorities are clear, you don't waste energy debating low-impact tasks. You don't spin in circles revisiting the same topics over and over. You move, you act, you adapt faster. The entire organization becomes more agile because the path is defined. In high growth environments, complexity is a silent killer. It sneaks in with scale. You add more tools, more processes, more people, and suddenly the thing that used to work isn't working anymore. That's when you need to pause and ask, where did we lose clarity? Because often the issue isn't the growth, it's that communication didn't keep up with the pace. People started operating off assumptions instead of alignment, and that's when mistakes happen. Clarity is a discipline. It means saying no to things that dilute your message. It means repeating the same thing more than you think you need to. It means being okay with sounding simple because simple gets results. Every person on your team should know what the top priority is, not the top 5, the top priority. If that's not happening, you've created complexity that needs to be eliminated. You can't delegate clarity. It starts with you. It starts with doing the hard thinking first so that others can execute easily. That's your responsibility as a leader. If you're constantly rewriting the plan, changing direction, or adding layers of nuance that don't translate to real action, you're not leading, you're confusing, and confusion is expensive. Clear communication isn't just a skill, it's a growth strategy. It builds trust, it fuels momentum, it gives people confidence to move forward without hesitation. When your team knows exactly what success looks like and how to get there, they stop guessing and start delivering. In every meeting, in every goal-setting session, in every conversation, ask yourself, am I making this more complicated than it needs to be? What's the one-sentence version of this idea? If someone on my team had to explain this to a new hire tomorrow, could they? The most powerful strategies, the most effective leaders, and the most successful teams all have one thing in common. They lead with clarity, because clarity beats complexity every single time. You don't get paid to be busy. You get paid to get results. That's the difference between high performers and everyone else. Being busy has become a badge of honor in today's work culture. People brag about their packed calendars, long hours, and how little sleep they got because they were grinding. But busy doesn't equal productive. It just means your time is filled. It doesn't mean your work is moving the business forward. You could work 12 hours a day and still make no real progress. You could be in back meetings all week and never actually make a decision. You could answer 100 emails and still have zero impact on your company's bottom line. Busyness feels good because it tricks you into thinking you're being useful. It gives you the illusion of importance. But when you step back and actually measure outcomes instead of effort, a lot of that activity starts to look like noise. The problem is that most people don't know the difference between being effective and being busy. They mistake motion for momentum. They get stuck in a cycle of task chasing, checking boxes, reacting to problems, responding to everyone else's urgency, without ever asking, is this the best use of my time? That question changes everything. Because when you start measuring the value of your time in terms of outcomes instead of effort, you start making very different choices. Being busy is easy. Anyone can fill a day. True productivity, on the other hand, requires clarity, focus, and discipline. It means saying no to things that don't move you forward. It means prioritizing your highest value tasks and eliminating distractions. It means making space to think, strategize, and lead, not just react. Leaders don't get paid to be involved in everything. They get paid to make things happen. That means creating clarity, aligning the team, and driving outcomes. If your calendar is full of low-impact meetings, endless check-ins, and just a quick everything, you're not leading, you're babysitting tasks. You've got to zoom out and ask, what are the top 3 things I need to move forward this week? If you don't know the answer to that, you're working blindly. And blind work rarely gets results. High performers understand this. They protect their time like it's money, because it is. They batch tasks, they automate what they can, they delegate with precision, and they don't feel guilty about saying no to things that don't align with their goals. It's not that they're doing more, it's that they're doing less, better. We've been conditioned to equate effort with value, but effort without intention is just wasted energy. You could spend all day on something that looks like work, but delivers no result. That's not value, that's just motion. The people who rise fastest in organizations aren't the ones who work the longest hours. They're the ones who identify the most important problems, solve them efficiently, and move on to the next challenge. The same principle applies whether you're running a team, building a company, or growing your own career. If you're constantly too busy to think, to plan, to assess, then you're not leading, you're reacting. And reactive leaders burn out, lose sight of the vision, and drag their teams into the same cycle. This is where it's become essential. Look at your calendar from the past week. How many hours did you spend on strategic, results-focused work? How many hours were spent reacting to other people's problems, sitting in meetings with no decisions, or getting stuck in admin loops? The gap between those 2 answers will tell you everything you need to know about where your productivity really stands. Being busy doesn't build businesses, results do, revenue does, client retention does, operational efficiency does. So ask yourself, what result did I drive today? If you can't answer that question clearly, something needs to change. It's not about working harder, it's about working smarter, more intentionally, and with total clarity on where you're going and how you're getting there. You'll start making better decisions, you'll create more space to lead. You'll stop glorifying being overwhelmed and start prioritizing being impactful. You don't get paid to check boxes, you get paid to make things happen. Shift your focus from hours to outcomes, because busy is a trap, and results are what actually move you forward. Emotional attachments cost you. They cost you time, energy, clarity, and often growth. The problem isn't that you care, it's that sometimes you care about the wrong things for too long. You stay loyal to a project that's clearly failing because you've already invested so much into it. You keep someone on your team who isn't performing because you feel bad letting them go. You hold on to a business idea that isn't working because you're emotionally attached to the version of yourself that started it. But the truth is, just because something mattered to you at one point doesn't mean it still deserves your time now. Growth requires detachment from anything that no longer serves the goal, and that includes your ego, your emotions, your sunk costs, and your comfort. Emotional attachments can blur your vision. They make it harder to make strategic decisions. You start defending things that aren't working simply because they feel familiar. You tell yourself, I've already come this far, instead of asking, is this still worth continuing? You let your emotions dictate your decisions, and when that happens, you lose objectivity. There's a difference between commitment and attachment. Commitment means you're in it for the long haul, but only if it's aligned. Attachment means you stay in it even when it's clearly not, and the longer you stay emotionally tied to the wrong thing, the more opportunity you miss somewhere else. That's the real cost. It's not just what you're holding on to, it's what you're not making room for. Letting go doesn't mean you failed. It means you're evolving. It means you're paying attention, and that's what smart leaders do. They don't let pride, guilt, or fear dictate their moves. They make hard decisions fast because they understand what's at stake. Every day you stay attached to the wrong hire, the wrong system, the wrong strategy. It's a day you delay progress. People often confuse emotional attachment with loyalty, but loyalty to the wrong thing is still a liability. Staying loyal to a person, a partnership, or a plan that's no longer aligned isn't noble, it's reckless. It slows you down, drains your energy, and creates resentment over time. You think you're keeping the peace, but what you're really doing is avoiding the discomfort of change. And nothing stalls progress faster than avoidance. This is especially true when it comes to people. Maybe it's an early hire who helped you build the foundation, but now the business has outgrown them. Maybe it's a vendor who used to deliver but hasn't in months. Maybe it's a long-time employee who's not adapting to the company's new pace. These are tough decisions, but leadership requires tough calls. You can be empathetic without being emotional. You can let someone go with respect while still protecting your business. It's not cruel, it's clarity. You can't lead well when you're emotionally entangled in every decision. You can't scale if you're afraid to cut ties. You can't grow if you're dragging the weight of old ideas, outdated systems, or relationships that no longer fit where you're headed. Every time you say yes to something because of how it makes you feel, instead of how it performs, you're compromising your vision. This doesn't mean you become cold or disconnected. It means you learn how to separate emotion from execution. You stop asking, how do I feel about this? And start asking, what is this costing me to keep? That shift changes everything, because when you evaluate decisions based on data, outcomes, and alignment, not just emotions, you operate with a higher level of leadership. You gain freedom, you gain speed, you gain control over your direction. We all form attachments, that's human, but as a leader, you have to learn how to recognize when something has run its course. Whether it's a tool, a team member, a strategy, or even a mindset, you have to be willing to let go to level up. You have to choose alignment over nostalgia, effectiveness over comfort, vision over sentiment. Ask yourself, what am I holding on to just because it's familiar? What have I outgrown but haven't admitted yet? What decision am I avoiding because it's emotionally uncomfortable? The faster you answer those questions honestly, the faster you'll unlock growth. Because in leadership, progress doesn't come from holding on, it comes from knowing when to let go. Emotional attachments will always cost you. The only question is, how much are you willing to pay? Your goals should filter your decisions. Every single one of them, big or small, personal or professional, if a decision doesn't move you closer to your goals, it's either a distraction or a delay, and distractions are expensive. They cost you time, focus, clarity, and progress. The people who move the fastest, grow the strongest, and lead with impact aren't the ones who do the most. They are the ones who decide the best, and they do that by using their goals as the filter. Without a filter, everything feels important. Every opportunity looks tempting. Every problem feels like yours to solve, and that's how you end up overwhelmed, burnt out, and unfocused, doing a lot but achieving very little. You say yes too often, not because you don't care about your time, but because you haven't built the muscle to weigh your decisions against a clear, defined outcome, and that's what your goals are for. They give you a lens, they keep you grounded, they turn choices into strategy. The most successful people don't make random decisions, they make aligned ones before they commit to anything: a new project, a meeting, a hire, a partnership. They ask, does this get me closer to the outcome I want? If the answer is no, they walk away. No guilt, no over-explaining, just clarity. When your goals become your filter, you stop overthinking. You stop debating decisions that should be obvious. You stop asking for advice about things that your vision has already answered. That's the power of alignment. It gives you permission to cut fast, to move forward, and to ignore anything that doesn't serve where you're headed. Most people operate backwards. They set a goal, then forget it the minute they start working. They jump from task to task, responding to whatever feels urgent. But urgent isn't always important. In fact, urgent is often someone else's priority. If you don't have a strong enough filter, your calendar will get filled with other people's goals, and your own vision will fall to the bottom of the list. You have to protect your focus. You do that by letting your goals make decisions for you. It's not about being rigid, it's about being intentional. That one client that seems exciting but doesn't fit your offer, say no. That partnership that could maybe help later but distracts from your current targets, pass. That hire who has potential but doesn't fit the profile for what your team needs right now, let them go. Every yes that isn't filtered through your goals is a slow leak in your momentum. Clarity creates speed. When you know where you're going, you don't waste time guessing. You don't take detours just to see what happens. You stay focused, you stay sharp, you stay on path. That doesn't mean you never pivot, but it means you don't pivot randomly. You adjust with purpose. You change direction when your goals evolve, not when your emotions do. Letting your goals filter your decisions also protects your team, because if you're not clear on what matters, neither are they. They start chasing 10 different objectives, and none of them get done. Alignment starts at the top. If you're not making filtered decisions, your business will reflect that confusion. But when you lead with focus, your team follows that rhythm. They understand what matters most, and they start making decisions that match the mission. This applies to your personal life too. Your energy is limited. If your goal is to grow your business, then every hour spent outside of that focus has to be intentional. That doesn't mean you can't rest or have a life. It means you choose how you spend your time instead of defaulting to convenience or emotion. It means saying no to things that feel good but don't serve the long game. Filtering your decisions through your goals gives you power. You're not just reacting, you're leading, you're choosing, you're in control. Every yes becomes strategic, every no becomes protection. Every move is aligned, and aligned action is what creates results. So the next time you face a decision, don't ask, can I do this? Ask, should I do this based on where I'm going? That one question will save you months of wasted effort. Because when your goals guide your decisions, you stop drifting and start building with purpose, with confidence, and with speed.